In most cases, ray trace shadows are the best choice for mental ray renderings, especially for interiors such as this. Let's take a look at controlling them. Right now I've got just a standard ray trace shadow with the default parameters. I'll go ahead and do a render of that. I've got Final Gather disabled so that we can see very clearly the edge of the shadow. So right now I've got a point light shape, and if I want to get soft shadows, I'll have to choose anything other than point. So for incandescent or compact fluorescent, usually I would choose sphere and adjust the radius to, let's say, 2 inches. And then when I do a rendering, I should get soft shadows that are physically accurate. So the shadow will be sharper here where the surfaces are closer together, and the shadow will be blurrier where the shadow casting and shadow receiving surfaces are farther apart from one another. Now, the other thing you'll need to play around with is the shadow samples here. So if it were set to 32, which is the default, you might get some grainy effects here. If you look closely, it's looking pretty grainy. So the higher this value, the less grain you will get, but of course, the longer the render times. I tend to use a value of 64 in most cases, especially once you've got Final Gather turned on. That'll kind of mask a lot of the graininess. So I'll set that back down to 64. Also, you'll note in the rendered frame window, you've got a slider here for soft shadows precision. And this is a global multiplier that will affect all of your lights in your scene. And basically, if I set this to, for example, 0.5, then the effective number of shadow samples for any light will be the value in the shape area shadows rollout times 0.5. So right now, if I render this, the effective result of shadow samples will be 64 divided by 2, or 32. So we're back to getting grainy shadows. So use this carefully, because if you crank this up, you could suddenly get extremely super long render times. My advice is to leave it at the default of 1 and adjust each light's shadow samples parameter individually. And that's how you control ray trace shadow parameters. And as you see, it's a lot less to think about than shadow maps. But again, the downside of it is you'll get longer render times. But you know what? That's fine, because good quality rendering is more important than fast.